Saturday Social, brought to you by EA Sports FC with PlayStation 5.
Welcome back to Saturday Social, where Joe and I are joined by Statman, Dave and Nieve, who could not be separated at ball knowledge. First ever tie. You both look gutted with yourselves from that tie-break question.
I think it was that last question, wasn't it? We let ourselves down there collectively, but we'll come back stronger.
You say collectively, it brings us perfectly onto our next section, because we are going to talk England now, Joe. And perfect timing, because we've been sent the new England kits. They are the home and away kits that England will be wearing when they bring it home. It's coming home, Joe, isn't it?
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. As you can see, the table has been taken over by magnets right now, because what we're going to be getting our guests to do is build out their full England 23-man squad. Now, importantly, this isn't what you think Gareth Southgate will do. This is what you would do. Right. So we're not making a prediction here. We're picking our own 23-man England squad.
Yeah, I think it's important to reference as well. We asked for both Nieve and Dave's 23, and there was quite a lot of differences, actually. Yeah. So you've got to come to an agreement. Any disagreement, Joe and I will decide based on the best argument. So it's up to you. So let's start with the keepers. 3 keepers.
Is there anyone nailed on that you both think has to be on?
I'm guessing Pickford is.
Well, yeah.
Both
I think Pickford. Yeah, definitely.
Pickford straight up.
Nailed on England's number 1 for the first game, Dave, for you?
I would personally play Ramsdale through just having a player.
You're saying you start Ramsdale?
I would start Ramsdale because I think his ability on the ball is slightly ahead of Jordan Pickford. Wow. And I think from the team, the squad that I've built is very ball-focused and ball-heavy. And I think that's the only reason. I don't think Pickford's that bad on the ball, but I think Ramsdale's probably a little bit a level above. The only issue you got with that is obviously Ramsdale's not been playing this season.
6 Premier League appearances.
Which is why Jordan Pickford would get the run ahead from a goalkeeping perspective. I'm just talking from a football perspective, in a sense of if England was set up the right way.
You look very surprised.
It's not even on my plane. It's not even there. Okay. I actually think, though, whatever you think in terms of the second and third goalkeeper, in terms of the first goalkeeper, I think it's disrespectful to suggest anything other than Pickford and what he's done for us in the last 3 major tournaments. He is fantastic. And 9 clean sheets across 19 games in major tournaments. Yeah.
Always brilliant, isn't it, in English? I think it's pretty nailed on. Pickford will be number 1. So who are the other 2 then that you can? Well, it sounds like you can't agree on.
Well, yeah. So you want Ramsdale, which I think is totally fair to want Ramsdale out there. I just think to have Ramsdale and Nick Pope is a slight risk, considering Nick Pope with him dislocating his shoulder, and Ramsdale with his lack of game time as well. Yeah. To have 2 goalkeepers with that lack of game time there is a little bit of a risk. So I've got a bit of an alternative in Jack Butland, who has played loads of games. He's been brilliant. I think he's been really overlooked because he doesn't play in the Premier League. But he's been absolutely brilliant. He's involved in a title race. He's been great in Europe, and he deserves to be considered.
The most clean sheets of any goalkeeper that's English, 17.
I think the only issue there is obviously Nick Pope's not played as much as Pickford this season, but he's got the best stats in terms of post-shot expected goals, which really takes in consideration where the shot comes from, where it goes in the goal and the saves he's made. So he's better than Pickford, he's better than Ramsdale over the last 2 seasons. So for me, he's the best goalkeeper. So I would put him, if you want a goalkeeper, I'd go with Pickford. If you want someone who wants to play out from the back, I'd go with Ramsdale.
So let's agree with.
So are you agreeing on Pope? Did you say then as a 3?
I think Pope definitely, but then I do think that's a valid point in terms of the injuries, and that's a really important side of international football. If your keepers, you lose 2 keepers, that's a bit concerning. So we can, if Jack Butland's a big one, then that's all right. We'll take a step back and go with that.
Let's go Butland and Ramsdale then as a bit of a.
Yeah, I mean, if Nick Pope does come back in April and he's absolutely fine, he has to be there.
Yeah,
right?
Sure. I mean, the form he was in, Pope was in prior to injury. He'd been so unlucky with injury. For perspective, they ruled out until April following surgery on a shoulder injury that was sustained in.
Fingers crossed he does come back.
Fingers crossed he does, because he was brilliant.
Yeah. Okay, let's get your goalkeeper.
Okay, so you'll get so Nick Pope misses out.
Yeah, Nick Pope misses out if his shoulders not right, but I think he'd be in there if he's
crossed.
Fit.
Fingers crossed he is
fit. Right, so defenders. So how many are we going with defenders-wise? Because obviously it's up to you.
Yeah, I've gone 4 centre-backs, 1 left-back, and then 2 right-backs.
So you've gone 7.
Okay, yeah.
So I've gone 7 overall. Okay. So that includes Jared Branthwaite. I think, a player that has to be there. And I agree, I think he should probably start. I think his mobility is something that is very, very good. I think he's really good in the air. I think he's got a lot of quality about him. And with the team that I was building out, I'd like to see the likes of Levy Colwell go as well, and someone like Ezri Konsa. And the reason why I'd select these 3 players in terms of why they'd fit into this England team is I think one of the big stats that I look at when looking at centre-halves, how they deal with dribblers. So when they're exposed, these three in the top 5 of the Premier League, Ezri Konsa has won 90% of the tackles against dribblers. He's played right back at times.
Yeah,
that's very, very good for an international tournament. So having, a back 3 or a back 4 that includes these guys plus John Stones.
So it's John Stones you nailed on.
John Stones has got to be number one. He's so good, and I think that his tactical development has been so interesting. He's had 13 touches per 90 in the attacking third, which is in the top 1% of centre backs in Europe. The guy is incredible. So I'm trying to build a defence to allow him to do that, similar to a Manchester City where you've got like a Nathan Ake, you've got a Ruben Diaz, you've got an Akanji in there, where you're playing Stones being a free play, playing right back, playing centre back, and then you have 3 defenders in there. And I'd also put in someone like Joe Gomez, who I think his versatility for Liverpool has been humongous this season. Played left back, right back, centre back. Only Virgil van Dijk's won more aerial duels as a percentage.
So
of the
5, that is, Nieve?
Yeah, I feel like this is an excessive amount of centre-backs. I think some of these players, whilst I agree with some, I think Jared Branthwaite is one I agree with.
Yeah.
Left-footed.
Let's get him up.
Showed so much for Everton this season.
Yeah. Not made his debut yet for England, of course, so...
No, he's certainly
the
the future of England, though. I'd have him there. In an ideal world on paper, of looking how he's performed, you would perhaps want him to start, but actually being realistic, personally, I think Harry Maguire needs to go.
So that is the problem. What I brought up before in terms of being able to defend 1v1, I think is one of Harry Maguire's weaknesses, you'd say, in terms of his agility and his mobility. And if you look at the top nations, they've got very, very fast mobile forwards. Kylian Mbappe is just a prime example of that. Jamal Musiala could be another one that's got that speed, has got that agility that England are going to have to deal with in a really, really big game 1v1 at times.
But we have seen him at major international tournaments, partnered with John Stones. You think of Euro 2020, only 2 goals conceded in the entirety of the tournament, and both of them were from set play. So there is a partnership.
Did we win those tournaments?
We didn't, but I wouldn't necessarily.
The France game is a prime example of that, of just absolute speed. Muani, Ousmane Dembele, Kylian Mbappe, where you need mobile players.
Well, you know what you also
undoing of
need?
England in that game.
That was one of a few undoings.
You also need experience, though, and all of those centre-backs that you've got there, to me, don't have enough experience to be relying on them for this tournament. I think if you look at the history books, you look at Euro-winning centre-back partnerships, you look at Bonucci and Chiellini, Puyol, Ramos. We need centre-backs who know each other's game, they know each other's strengths and weaknesses. And realistically, Maguire, when he went to the World Cup, for example, he was more out of favour at club level than what he is now. You know, he's put in some good performances for Manchester United. Stones and Maguire, they know each other. They get on well on the pitch. He has to be there.
I just think you can't play a high line with Harry Maguire. I think that Manchester United have shown that, and it's broken United's pressing structure with Raphael Varane, with Harry Maguire, with Johnny Evans, and that is a big, big problem. This England team needs to be aggressive. It needs to have youth in it from a defensive perspective, and I do think that's a big, big thing. And throwing in someone like an Ezri Konsa or a Levi Colwill or Joe Gomez.
Just quickly, would all 3 of those be above Harry Maguire for you?
Ezri Konsa's in there because Ben White's unavailable for selection.
Would you select Ben White, though?
Ben White would be absolute number 1. Ben White has been so good in recent weeks.
Yeah.
He's playing in midfield. He's doing what John Stones is doing. So having that ability to have 2 players that can do that would 100% have Ben White. So Ezri Konsa, as much as I think he's amazing and love him, I think he'll play multiple positions, could be someone that we put to the side.
Gonna have to make a decision then. Is there a balance where one of Dave's goes and then maybe Maguire goes as well?
Yeah, but I feel like we can't have all 3 of these. I would say, personally, Maguire and Gomez, because that way you've got Maguire and Stones, who have played together for over a number of tournaments. You've got Branthwaite, who offers that agility, he's left-footed, who can sort of come in if Maguire's not good enough. And then you've got Gomez as the substitute for Stones.
I can't believe we're getting rid of Levi Colwill.
Okay.
Are you happy with that?
We can always come back at the end and move things around, because sometimes you decide you want to have more defenders at the end or more midfielders. So
are there any other...
that for now.
Should we look at the fullbacks as well? Because obviously so many right-backs.
Yeah, George, should we do right-backs first?
Walker,
Yeah, I think so.
You've got Trent, you've got Trippier, the sort of standouts, I imagine.
I would probably go Trent Alexander-Arnold and Kieran Trippier. Kieran Trippier, most assist of any defender.
No Carl Walker.
Hang on. You wouldn't take
Carl Walker. So Carl Walker's getting put on the side.
Dave.
You wouldn't take Kyle Walker.
I'm trying to build out a defence that has got centre-backs in it, in a sense of moving away from certain ideas. The reason why I think...
But he does that for City, doesn't he?
He does do that for City.
And it's 1v1 pacey.
We're going to get rid of
Maguire.
We have to move on from that. My squad was a youthful squad for the future. I think Kieran Trippier's
like 32, isn't he?
But I think with his delivery, the reason why I've got Alfie Doherty in the squad as well It's so you
What is going
it's so
on?
you
This
can,
feels
so
surreal.
you can change up the game plan in a sense of you've got two fullbacks that can cross. Doughty, 257 crosses going into the box.
To be fair, Joe and I have mentioned Alfie Doughty on this show, sung his praises before, but just to get this straight, in the fullback area, you would take Alfie Doughty over Kyle Walker.
Well, Kyle Walker's a right back at that.
No, I know, but we're talking about fullbacks
but
now.
So that's... But then
Trippier can play both, for example.
Trippier can play both, but you look at his... I think if one of the first times he played for England at left-back, he'd made like 2-3 club
Nieve,
appearances.
let's see your thoughts on this.
I feel like this is a practical joke. I feel like someone's going to come out and say, surprise, this is just a joke the whole time. I can't understand why Kyle Walker's not there. I just can't get my head around it. And also, so you wouldn't take Ben Chilwell?
Wouldn't you? I'd take Alfie Doughty over Ben Chilwell. Right now.
And I'm just going to bring one more name to the discussion here. Luke Shaw. You're not going to take Luke Shaw, who has been England's outstanding left-back despite injury problems at nearly every single tournament
so good in the Euros,
under Southgate.
Don't get me wrong, you know, if Luke Shaw goes, I've got no problem with that. I just think there's a bit of a risk taking Ben Chilwell and Luke Shaw.
So you would rather take Chilwell than Shaw?
I would take one of them either way. I think is not, you know, it's fine. I'll be on the fence about it. I just think they're both injury concerns. Whoever's the most sharp should go. Whoever's the most fit should go.
And you would take Doughty over both Chilwell and Shaw?
I just think injuries is a big thing. I think Luke Shaw's, is he going to... If he's back, then yeah, of course.
I think he's back after the international break, Luke Shaw.
Alfie Doughty, delivery from wide areas. There's a simple reason. So you can change the game plan. You can play with two forwards and just cross the ball into the box. It gives England a bit of adaptability that they haven't had in tournaments.
Who have you agreed on then?
Let's put
Who have we agreed?
Who have you agreed on? So you both...
Trent's got to be there, right?
Obviously, yeah.
And you both got Trippier, am I right in thinking? It's your squad, but I believe you
Yeah, I
both
take
said that.
Trippier as well.
So you've got...
Two left back, two right backs.
Trent goes as a defender, not a midfielder here, because we've
No,
heard Southgate talk about him as an eight.
Trent into the midfield bracket.
Because that does...
He could be anywhere. Could
But
put
he
him
could
as striker.
go either
Number
or.
10.
So the other defenders you want to pick... you've got Stones, Branthwaite, Maguire, Gomez, Trent, Trippier.
Walker,
So it looks like...
surely.
Yeah,
Surely
I
Kyle
am
Walker.
pleading with you because not only do I think Kyle Walker should go, he should also start, for goodness sake.
Nah, you see, I wouldn't be starting him in my side, but you can put him in.
I
We can
think
put him in.
Being real, I think he was one of our most important players.
And left back, you've got another...
Surely you're going to have to take one left back. One of Ben Chilwell, Doughty or Shaw.
Yeah, I'm happy to take... I just wasn't aware that Luke Shaw would be available.
Yeah, I think he's back after the international break,
If he
Luke
is
Shaw.
back, Luke Shaw goes in 100%, yeah.
Okay.
He definitely...
One day,
gets
Alfie.
over
We'll get you in, Alfie, one day.
Okay, let's put him up. So that is 9 defenders, but we could potentially have Trent in the midfield role as well, right? So it kind of works.
Yeah.
Let's go into the midfield role then. Is there any we can just get rid of straight away?
Declan Rice
No,
done.
it's just up there.
Yeah. Dave, please tell me you're taking Jude Bellingham.
Jude Bellingham's part of this youthful rethink that we're going down the line.
That's the Kyle Walker thing. I don't know where we're going.
Get Jude up then.
Please tell me.
Yeah, Jude Bellingham is, 20 goals and 9 assists?
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah, incredible. And again, I think that you might be playing him deeper in this England side as a box-to-box midfielder versus playing him a little high because of the attacking talent that England have got. So just getting another body in there would be really good. But Jude Bellingham it's been incredible. He's, in terms of attacking midfielders, most goals in Europe.
Can I ask Nieve quickly? Everyone talks about Declan Rice, Jude Bellingham, and who is the third player that partners them. It's a debate. Everyone knows those two will start. I don't think anyone can agree on who the other third player is because we've got so much strength and depth.
Yeah.
Who would you start as your third midfielder in that three?
Personally, I think there's a really good shout for Conor Gallagher because it's not necessarily about who is the best third option, the best player. It's about who will balance them out.
The system.
The goal is to get the most out of Bellingham, is to allow him to run into the box if he wants to without any sort of danger that we'll leave ourselves exposed. So you want someone who is tenacious, who is willing to put in that legwork on the transition. And I think Gallagher will do that for us. Curtis Jones is another alternative as well for that. Someone who is willing to balance that midfield out. And I don't think Dave...
No, I'm not taking any of those guys. No, well, as much attacking flair in there as possible. So, like,
You're not shaking your head.
For the number 10, to join those two guys in midfield, I'd go one of Phil Foden,
Or Maddison?
James Maddison, or Cole Palmer. And at the moment, I would play Cole Palmer
You
because of his
seriously
form.
think that we're not going to be vulnerable at all if you're putting in one of those players alongside Rice and Bellingham?
But that's why we played 4 centre-backs. That's why we were playing really defensively 1v1, very, very good at the back. I think that England needs to go down that line of being more like Manchester City in that sense, of being super, super dominant, having like a midfield that's more 2-3-8 in there. Hence why I think, if we look at someone like Phil Foden, whether we put him in the forward line or the midfield line, he has to be there, right? He's another one.
Yeah,
that's
100%.
Absolutely tapping. So we throw him in there in terms of, he's changed statistically. He takes a lot more shots. He's only taken 3 shots fewer than Haaland this season. And his, goals for Man City has gone from 12% to 21% in terms of how many City have scored in the Premier League. Phil Foden has to be in the team somewhere. Yeah. And what's difficult is, I think Saka's got to be in the team as well, right? From the start. So Saka's in there.
Is he not forward? He's not forward.
Hang on.
I would put both of these there, though. I would put Phil Foden further up the pitch, too.
So
what about James Maddison, then? You mentioned him just briefly there.
I think he's got 3, Rice, Bellingham, Maddison.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. I think he's got real quality. The only concern would be the injury side of it. 4 goals and 7 assists in the Premier League this season, the fewest minutes to get to that over 10 goal involvements in the league. Look at his shot creating actions per 90 top of the league. He's got
Premier League Player of the Month in his first month at the club as well.
It's just working out how you build it with Maddison in there, and I don't know whether. I'd rather have James Maddison or Cole Palmer than maybe a Conor Gallagher or Curtis Jones.
But you can't compare the two, in my opinion. They're totally different players, and I just think we're going to be so vulnerable if we set out with those 3 players. You talk about being like Manchester City, but we haven't got, defensively, in my opinion, the team to be able to play like that. I think it'd be so naive to do that. You look at the players who have really helped us in the past, like Calvin Phillips, who might not be necessarily a standout player on his own, but he suited that system so much, because you've got to be able to bring out the most of the other players, and we are not going to bring out the most of Bellingham if he has to play with Maddison in that midfield. And Maddison would go 100%, but I think you need a midfielder next to them who is going to balance the team out enough. And for me, that is Curtis Jones, Conor Gallagher.
But that could be, for example, Trent moving into midfield.
Yeah,
that could be.
100%.
No, but as in, you could have a back 4 with Trent moving from right back into midfield. So you have that balance. So you've got Declan Rice and Trent Alexander-Arnold as your double pivot. Your 2 10s, in a sense, or the 2 8s would be Bellingham and Maddison, or Bellingham and Foden, and the shape would just look a little bit different. I think one of England's problems, I think we always play this water carrier. I don't think we've got so much attacking quality. We could score in so many different ways. I don't know if we necessarily need a water carrier.
What do we think happens? That's all. Pray it doesn't. But if Declan Rice gets injured, no. So far, I'm looking at that. I'm thinking there's nobody on there.
5 at the back. Doughty comes in.
But let's be realistic, because I think at the moment there's no deep-lying option in.
That's why I brought little Cobby along with me to the party.
So you would take Cobby?
I'd take Cobby because I think he's got a lot of ability, he's got a lot of skill, and I think he could play in multiple roles in midfield. And I think that 6th position, as you mentioned, is a whole. And I think we've seen him for Manchester United already. He can play that role, he can play as an 8. I think he's better as an 8, ultimately. But
yeah, I mean, listen, such a talented player, I'm not going to object to it. Personally, I just think it's quite a lot to put on a player straight away, if I'm being totally honest. And I think it's a really good point about Declan Rice. We could be in a real situation if something was to happen to him. But that is why I would take Curtis Jones and Conor Gallagher, because it is all about having those different options in midfield.
But could you imagine a system, let's say Rice got injured, where a Curtis Jones or a Gallagher is playing as a 6?
But then I wouldn't want to put that on him, on Manu either. I wouldn't want to put that sort of pressure on him.
We have seen him do it for United, though. When Casemiro's been injured, we've seen him, at the weekend against Liverpool, you drop into effectively...
Worth putting out as well, Declan Rice's records with injuries is fantastic.
Yeah.
Can you every game for Arsenal, such would have caused.
Yeah, but obviously that was very dangerous, that Smithy.
Should we just talk about who's nailed on, and then we can talk about the definites? So
you definitely want Gallagher.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, Gallagher needs...
Gallagher go for you?
I wouldn't.
Doesn't take him. Wow, there's a lot.
I think there's loads of 10s. I think Gallagher's the best as a 10.
Should we see who's nailed on, even in the forward positions, and then we can work out how many places are left? So obviously Harry Kane goes.
Hurricane Harry. Breaking records in the Bundesliga.
Striker in the world football at the minute. Yeah. He goes. Who else is nailed
Ollie
on?
Watkins.
Yeah, I think he's nailed on.
Most goal involvements in the Premier League. 26.
What's 10 season Ollie Watkins having?
Surely Cole Palmer is at this stage nailed on, isn't he?
Is he in both of your squads, Cole Palmer?
Yeah, forward. Yeah, he's 100% in my squad.
So that leaves...
Do you think we need to take 3 strikers? I've seen a lot of people suggesting in there Ivan Toney. Is that a necessity when you've got Kane and you've got Watkins as a backup?
I'd also look at Toney's, 4 goals in 10 games since he's come back.
Yeah.
He's not played as well as he played last season. He's a different option, and I think that's the reason why Doughty and Trippier will come up, you put balls into the box and Toney's in there. You've got tactical flexibility there when chasing a game, which I think is important. But then you look at someone like Dom Solanke, right, who's playing some of the best football of his career, that is a back-to-goal striker that could do a similar job. Maybe not as physical, but good. So that's the question mark, whether you go with Toney, the physical option, or you could bring in another player.
Jarrod Bowen?
Oh, 100% Jarrod Bowen. The thing is with Ivan Toney, for me, is for him to actually be on that pitch, what you would need is something to happen to Harry Kane, something to happen to Ollie Watkins, for him to actually be someone who would play. So you've got to think about when you would need them. And I think there's more instances where you would need some of our more midfield options, 100%, which is why Conor Gallagher has to go.
And we do see that rotated quite a lot in the past, don't we, with Gareth Southgate? We've seen in wide areas, you know, Sterling, Rashford, Saka, Foden, Grealish, they are used a lot. I know what Nieve's saying, though, down the middle, it's Harry Kane or someone for 10 minutes towards the end of the game. So you wouldn't take 3 strikers for that reason, effectively.
Yeah.
I think you've got 3 players left, by the way.
3 left.
Options.
So you're a bit light in the midfield. There's a lot of work for Rice, Jude and Madders doing at the minute. I mean...
There's only a few games.
You could put Trent in... Maybe if you put Trent into that midfield one now, then that gives you another option in midfield, and it means that you've got, 8 defenders.
Do either of you take this man here? A lot's been spoken about Calvin Phillips. Is he on either of your lists?
No.
Not on the plane for you?
Think so.
Same with Jordan Henderson, I presume?
Jordan Henderson?
Same.
Yeah, Jordan Henderson, no. However, Conor Gallagher...
Marcus Rashford has to be there. Full stop. Absolutely has to be there. I think he can play multiple positions and was England's best player at the last tournament.
I'd rather take Anthony Gordon than Rashford. The thing is, though, we've got time left in the season. If Rashford ends this season brilliantly, he will go because of what he's already done for England. He will earn that. However, as it stands, I personally think Anthony Gordon offers more than Marcus Rashford.
No, I can't agree with that. 30-plus goals for Manchester United last season. That was literally a season ago. He's not been in the greatest form, but he's starting to get back into form. And I think he's an explosive player at international level that you've got to play. International football's more about an individual, in a sense, an Mbappe, that type of calibre of player. Rashford's got that ability to create something out of nothing, score a goal. Off the bench, it will be great value when players are tired. And if we're not taking Toney as a forward, we need to have another foot player that's capable of playing as a number 9.
Yeah, because the versatility.
Ollie Watkins.
Yeah.
Another number 9.
And also Anthony Gordon could play well down the middle, but also on the left as well. So
let's not forget Jarrod Bowen has spent majority of this season at West Ham playing through the middle, scoring like 18-odd goals.
Yeah.
So
great form.
He could play as a number 9 in there too. Is there a world you could take both, or you don't think you need that many wide players and forwards?
No, I don't. We've got so many.
Who else? We need another midfielder as well. You're not taking Henderson. You're not taking Phillips. Is there another midfielder you're putting in?
One
of Curtis Jones,
and you don't have
again. I think Phil Foden,
and you haven't got Cobby.
Yeah, but Phil Foden, for me, you can't put him in midfield because I think it makes us too vulnerable. So I wouldn't even consider him as the midfield option. I'd consider him as a forward option. So I'll keep him there, and I'll be looking to put someone here just to balance that team out, because that is such an attack-minded team.
I want to score some goals in this tournament.
But then we also don't
England get boring sometimes. We need goals.
Do you take Conor Gallagher, as you want, and do you take Marcus Rashford, and there you're another 2 players? Is that a balance?
What about...
And then the main, though, get pushed to the side. I think I'd rather have Maino in terms of his quality and what he could bring to the England team in a deeper position than both of those two. I think Curtis Jones has shown... I'd rather have Jones and Gallagher in that sense of if you want to replace a deeper player to get on the ball and control things.
You've got 3 spots left and there's 4 magnets.
So I think Marcus Rashford has got to go, right? He has to. I think that's...
Dave's putting his foot down, OK.
Rashford has got to go.
If you're that convinced...
He has to.
Dave is absolutely convinced.
If I'm willing to allow Rashford, I think that...
We're going to bring Alfie Doherty then, yeah?
No, but what that should allow is me to have at least one of these 2, because I want both of these.
You pick one.
I'd go Curtis Jones over Gallagher.
I think if it wasn't for injury, Curtis Jones would be nailed on, but because of these recent injuries, it's been really unfortunate for him. I think he offers, again, a lot of balance to the midfield. But...
So that's it. With Gallagher, that's...
What about Toney?
And you want Maino and Toney?
When would he play? When would he actually play? There is more of a situation where he will play. He could end up starting.
That leaves one spot between Cobby and Connor.
Ezri Konsa. We're bringing him back.
So you want to go Connor? You want to go?
I'd say Toney just as a different option as a.
And neither. We've got a lot of mates. No Sterling, no Grealish,
no Jack Grealish.
None of the other names. You've not got Jack Grealish down.
When was the last time he played?
Yeah, he has been injured. He has been very consistent.
I'd go Maino.
So being realistic, think about depth for a second. Ivan Toney, that's not where we need depth. We need depth in midfield.
Haven't got a deep flyer, really. Just saying.
Declan Rice. I'd go Maino over.
OK, there we go.
Gallagher.
So I believe that's 23. Is that 23, Joe? Quick
3.
Count. There is confirmation of the 23-man England squad. Let us know what you think of that. Some big names omitted.